Hello, class. It's time for today's read aloud of our excellent new book, The First Rule of Punk. Um, we were starting chapter 4 today, but if you remember, chapter 3 had Malu and her mom moving to Chicago, and they met an eccentric person that lived across the street, Senora Oralia, something like that, I believe, and um, they were trying to find some place to eat, and they were just kind of talking about their problems, and they got a new house and everything. Chapter 4 begins now. Mom spent the week dragging me around the city to explore. We rode on the trains that travel all over Chicago. We went to Lake Michigan, which was freezing cold for some September and not salty like the Atlantic. We saw Sue the T-Rex at the Field Museum and Sorat's people in the park, painted from tiny dots at the Art Institute. We visited the biggest public library building I've ever seen, where I got a new library card and a stack of books. We had egg custard buns and tea at a bakery in Chinatown. And we almost got swept up into a White Sox game before Mom came to her senses and remembered she didn't even like baseball. Then one day, while searching for a bookstore Mom wanted to visit, I saw Laurie's Planet of Sound. It looked even cooler than Dad had described it. I thought about asking Mom if we could check it out, but I didn't. It felt too weird to think about being in someone else's record store. Plus, I figured Mom wouldn't be interested, but it didn't matter because she spotted her bookstore before I could say anything. By Sunday morning, all I wished for, besides going back home, was to be left alone with my music, my zine supplies, and my denial that school was starting. Super Mexican, of course, was not having it. "Let's go get some breakfast," Mom said. "I saw a cute little coffee shop on the way to the train the other day." "No thanks, I'm just going to eat some cereal." "Come on," she said, yanking my comforter. "It's our last day before school starts. Let's have a nice breakfast together, just like the old times, okay?" I pulled the blanket back over myself. "I'll bring some work," Mom offered. "You won't even have to talk to me." "You promise?" "Just kidding," Mom said. "Let's go." "And can you please put on a clean shirt? You've been wearing the same one for days now." I sniffed my t-shirt. It smelled fine to me. The coffee shop we walked to had a bright red awning that said Calica Coffee. The large glass window was decorated with colorful skulls, marigolds, and dancing skeletons. I had to admit, Mom was right. It did look kind of cool. Inside, we were greeted by a life-size papier-mâché skeleton that looked like Frida Kahlo with her blackbird eyebrows. A skeleton monkey was perched in her bony arms. It was Frida's pet monkey, Fulang Chang. Frida was one of my favorite artists, and not just because I was almost named after her. I liked that she painted about herself and her life, and she was outspoken. She was pretty punk rock. Near Frida was a shelf crammed full of books. I liked this place already. There were steps leading up to a loft area with floor seating where pillows of mismatched colors, patterns, and sizes surrounded a few short tables. A woman with a bright pink stripe running through her dark hair cleared off a table. The sleeves of her shirt dress were rolled up to her elbows, revealing colorful tattoos on both arms. I couldn't stop staring. "Can we sit up there, Mom?" I set one foot on the first step leading to the loft. Mom looked like she was going to say no, but the tattooed woman noticed us before she could. "You can sit anywhere," the woman said. "I'll bring you some menus in a minute, okay?" Mom smiled in acknowledgement and headed up to the loft. "I'm going to look around," I said. "Go for it." Mom pulled her planner out of her bag. I slid my skateboard under our table and wandered toward the ordering area. The display case beneath the counter was filled with pan dulce, sweet Mexican breads, that I remembered eating when I visited my abuelos. Each tray had a little sign in Spanish and English indicating the names of the different type of bread. La concha, the shell; el bigote, the mustache; la oreja, the ear; el marranito, the pig. They were named after what they looked like. My favorite was always the concha because it had sections of sweet, colorful icing on top that I liked to peel off and eat separately. The walls behind the counter were covered with wooden animal masks and bright tin suns, moons, and skeletons. So many skeletons. Then I saw something super familiar. Cardboard record sleeves decorating a different wall. I got excited because there were some punky 80s-looking bands. Mixed in with them were 50s rock and roll singers with greased pompadours and Mexican singers with big mustaches and bigger hats. I moved closer to get a better look at the album covers. I recognized a few of them as people Mom listened to sometimes. When I walked back to our table, Mom was talking to the woman who had greeted us. "Anna, this is my daughter, Maria Luisa," Mom said. I plopped down on a big velvety orange and red pillow. Malu, I said. Hi. I tried not to stare at her pink hair and tattoos. She looked like she might be Mexican, but I had never seen another Mexican punk. Mrs. Hidalgo owns the coffee shop, Mom said. And guess what? She's Senora Aurelia's daughter. You know, from our building. What a small world, right? I grew up in that building, Mrs. Hidalgo said. Your mother tells me you're at JGP Middle School. I gave her a puzzled look. That's what we call it sometimes, JGP, for Jose Guadalupe Posada. Or just Posada. Oh, I said. I see. My son is going into the 7th grade too, she went on. He's not here today, but you should meet him. Ask around for Jose Hidalgo, okay? He's hard to miss. She winked at me and pulled an order pad out of her apron pocket. I nodded, even though I could not see myself asking around for someone I didn't know. Now let me get your order so you ladies can eat already. I hope you're okay with vegetarian food. Vegetarian is great, I said. I highly recommend the chorizo breakfast tacos, Mrs. Hidalgo said. We make our own. Is there cilantro in it? I asked suspiciously. No cilantro, Mrs. Hidalgo said. We can sprinkle some on top if you'd like. Mom laughed. I think she'll pass. Got it, Mrs. Hidalgo said with a nod. I felt myself blushing, hoping Mrs. Hidalgo didn't think it was weird that I didn't want cilantro. And a coffee, please, I said. I'll have a coffee too, Mom said, closing her menu, and the yogurt and granola. Thanks. Mrs. Hidalgo jotted down our order and then tucked her pencil into her apron pocket. Don't hesitate to let me know if you need anything, Magali, she said. Mom smiled and thanked her. Once Mrs. Hidalgo was out of earshot, Mom shook her head. Vegetarian Mexican, she said. I'll never understand that. Don't be so close-minded, Mom, I said. Point taken. Mom sipped her water. This is great, right? We've met some nice people. Maybe even a new school friend? I slumped back against the wall and picked at my black nail polish. You should find Jose at school, Mom said. It'll be good for you to have someone to hang out with. Thanks for your concern, I said. And do you think you could stop introducing me as Maria Luisa? That's your name, isn't it? You know what I mean, Mom. It's bad enough I have to be here at all without people calling Maria Luisa, too. Malu, I can't imagine it feels good to be angry or annoyed about everything all the time, Mom said. How would you feel if you were me? If you were moved 1,000 miles away from home, against your will? Chicago isn't 1,000 miles from Gainesville, Mom replied. You're right, I looked it up, I said. It's 1,050 miles away. That's practically at the end of the earth. Aye, Malu, you're so dramatic. A young guy stopped at our table and placed a mug in front of each of us. I brought the steaming coffee to my face and took a careful sip. It tasted earthy and sweet, like cinnamon and piloncillo. The last time I visited my abuela, she had a big cone of piloncillo that we'd chip off into our coffee to sweeten it. Seriously, I said, if I were a sailor back in Columbus's day, I'd be afraid we were going to drop off into an abyss and be eaten by a giant sea serpent. For your information, Columbus knew the world was round, she said. He just thought it was smaller than it is. I shot Mom the iciest look I could give. She had a habit of turning everything into a learning opportunity. Our food arrived, and I inspected my soy rizo for signs of cilantro, my culinary arch nemesis, just in case. All clear, Mom asked. I nodded and took a bite. It's a big deal to be offered this visiting professor fellowship, Mom said, and it's not forever, so let's make the best of our time here. You make it sound like that's really easy, I said. Mom closed her eyes and took a deep breath before opening them again. I can assure you that being a grump about it is only going to make things harder, she said. Give it a chance, Malu. You might actually like Chicago. What's it like about moving to a strange place, I said. I don't know anyone here. You'll make friends and do things here just like you would back home. Of course, wasn't that what adults were supposed to say? You'll figure it out, Mom said. I hope you'll at least try for your own sake and for my sanity. No more sulking, okay? She gave my braid a little tug. Sometimes I wondered if Mom even remembered what it was like to be a kid. How's that soy chorizo? It's soy rizo, I said, animal-free and delicious. Mom closed her eyes and took another deep breath, but this time a small smile crept onto her lips. That night, I tried not to think about school starting the next day. It wasn't easy, especially when my phone buzzed with a text from Dad wishing me luck. I decided to distract myself by doodling. I dug the little yellow box of worry dolls out of my bag and dumped them onto the desktop. Worrying about stuff is not punk, Malu, but I grabbed a sheet of paper and wrote down my worries anyway. When I was done, I gathered the worry dolls and crawled under the ugly flower print comforter. I didn't really believe that 6 tiny stick figures had magical powers that could take away my worries. Still, I lifted my pillow and lined them up in a row underneath. I turned off the light and climbed into bed. Then I buried my face into the pillow so that Mom wouldn't hear me crying. And then it shows the things that she wrote down, and I'll read them to you, then I'll put a picture up to the camera. It says, these are her worries that she wrote down for the worry dolls. It says, going to a new school where I don't know anyone or where anything is. What if I never liked Chicago? Not seeing Dad. Would he eventually forget about me? Mom not letting me be myself. But what else is new? What if no one at school likes the same music I like? What if I never find my people? Never going home again. What if Mom decides to stay forever? And those are the things she wrote down for her worry dolls. All pretty valid concerns, I'd say. But she'll have to see what she comes up with. I guess check the reading response prompts to complete this activity.